Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another exciting episode of Colney Talk Podcast, your bite-sized breakdown show. I'm your host Alex. First-time listeners, glad to have you here. And to my returning guests, thank you for sticking with me. As always, I talk a bit about the Arsenal match and pick out my top 3 Arsenal players who shined. And one odd player not good enough I get to call out. Arsenal's clash with Aston Villa in the 2-2 draw has added more concerns to this team's current situation and with everything that we're facing. I mean, this is going to sound repetitive as if I'm referring to a previous match, but no, it's a current one. It's what happened on Saturday after going back and watching through everything. But let me start with giving this team credit because they've faced a lot. They've dealt with a lot of situations and they have proven why it is worthy of their versatility in terms of roles, their capabilities, and their quality, because not every team can do what we've done so far. And given the current climate of where we are and what we're facing, anyone would want to be in a situation. So I rather would look at it from a positive as far as the good things we've done so far and just continue to support the team. But I'm still going to call things out the way the games unfold and certain things that just seem out of place as far as where this team is going and the standards that they're trying to maintain. This Arsenal team, they showed flashes of brilliance, but they struggled in key moments. And it's not unexpected because, again, as I said, not having our key players and they keep dropping, hopefully no more of these key players drop off. We would expect some things like this, disappointments and situations that wouldn't have happened if they were there. Because as a collective for a team, their standards are way, way higher than this. So it's another roller coaster of emotions at the Emirates Stadium. The absence of Saliba, it was a noticeable void in our back line, but it did show throughout the match, but I wouldn't say it was such a huge drop-off. But there's still a lot for us to look back and still give credit to the teams that came in and played certain positions. But then there's so many other things that are questionable as far as game management and looking at situations in this kind of scenario, right? Like, how can we dig deep and rely on a defensive posture that we have in the past? But again, moments that we would wish back we could have done better, that's all said and done now. In the first half, Arsenal's pressing game was on point. It was reminiscent of the intensity we saw against Tottenham just days ago. The midfield of Rice and Mourinho orchestrating beautiful plays and finding pockets of spaces and disrupting Villa's rhythm was huge. And it was a lot in terms of how Villa were able to get by our press. It seemed like Villa thrived in scenarios where we were pressing them high up from the back line and they were able to build and cut through the initial press and creating oceans of spaces for them to kind of operate because they had pace and they had physicality in front of them that did give them enough to manage. It was an interesting match to watch at times because you could see both teams figuring out the situations and playing in an intelligent chess match like kind of, game where they could create runs, create spaces, run behind and play through, and having Arsenal on the other hand, thwart any kind of counterattack that they're trying to create and movements that they managed to create, which they did. So from that standpoint, on a technical matchup, it was an interesting game to watch. However, this was where frustration began to creep in. We looked a bit more threatening in front of goal, and our dominance was there in terms of sustaining the recycle plays. But our final ball, as encouraging as it was, I think it's fair to say we needed to do more. We did pepper Villa in this game because the amount of crosses, which includes our set piece, was enough to give them a discomfort. Yes, they absorbed as much that we gave them, but this was different than previous games where we did try to do things in front of goal, make a lot of attempts, but didn't really kind of have anything to show for it. Again, like I said, similar to previous matches, but this was different. Villa, on the other hand, to their credit, were well organized. Given the amount of pressure they faced, it seemed like this was something they had prepared for. Our Emirates tactical setup made it such that they were content to sit back, and hit us on the counter with Watkins at the top, which proved quite effective because they had a couple of chances which they could have broken through and punished us, which they've done in the past. But thankfully, Big Gabby was there to make sure that didn't happen. Now, as we approached the halftime, I wasn't sure what to expect. Were we going to be able to have a breakthrough and find some answer for Arsenal in front of goal? But then, yeah, we did. And I mean, it sounds surprising, but, when you're not sure who to look for and look at as the answer, there's a lot to hope for. So we got that, and Martinelli was able to give us that breakthrough to give us the lead before halftime, and that was great. It was a reaction of instinctive responses. Crossing the box, you're there to poach or respond right away rather than, taking more of a second or so. And I sound harsh here, but this is something that Arsenal team has to do better in front of goal or the chances that they get, because they need to do a lot more of that, because the chances they create driving into the box as far as entries don't equate to the times that they respond without hesitation. So that's how this paid for us going to the halftime with a 1-0 lead, and we knew there was more to do. Now, entering the second half, this is where things really heated up and the emotions even got out of whack. Arsenal came out with the belief to get it right and raise the level as they should, but it was a tall task given we were dealing with an overall disalignment of players in different roles. And I'm talking about Partey, Timber, and Merino in that, setup. But the team still played decent enough to deal with that. However, that affected defensive and offensive plays. There was a lot to see there, but it didn't show itself in a bad way. And as the game went on, it felt like we had a little bit more on our side as far as good fortunes. The second goal from Havertz brought the sense of relief that it felt we were going to achieve 3 points winning this game. There was a lot of that excitement that was coming from me as I was thinking that, and looking at the second goal, the interplay between Trossard and Havertz was a moment of pure quality. It's, again, reminiscent of how Martinelli responded to score the first goal. It was a kind of goal that reminds you or me of the potential when these players trust themselves when they strike instantly in the box. I mean, I keep going on and on about this, but ultimately it's true. It would come down to the fact that an influencer of a striker, an attacker or winger, whomever that is, would show that the response of not wasting a chance, a second of a chance in front of goal, would raise the level of our goal chances. Yes, we've scored a lot of goals, but we would have done a lot more of that if we have this as part of our response or their nature of one strike, one chance. I mean, we're not talking about blind shots. Blind shots do help. Blind crosses do help and everything, but, we get punished from that. But when it comes to us making those attempts, we should be able to do better. We did it. It paid dividend here, giving us just that 2-0 lead. And hopefully we have that person or player that can come in and affect that change for our attack in front, because we definitely need that. But as the game went on, it's my hope that we were going to win and go away with these 3 points. I was suddenly faced with disappointment as it landed right in a matter of seconds. Instead of building on the momentum to preserve the way the wind was blowing for this win for the team, we seem to have taken our foot off the gas, just enough for them to get back in. And that's when Villa were able to score the first goal, and just right like that, they were able to equalize from a 2-0 and now facing a draw situation. That was painful. I mean, the seesaw nature of the second half, as painful as it was even a whole lot more for our hopes throughout for this game. I mean, when you think we're going to get this win for 2-0, by the way, that can be something that sits right with anyone. We gained this 2-0 lead through moments of individual brilliance, but our inability to manage the game cost us. Villa's second equalizer was a sucker punch. I mean, it exposed the defensive frailties in Saliba's absence in just those few moments. Adding more salt to the wound, I thought we would snatch the win with the third goal, but that was because it was ruled a handball. But here is my question on that. Did VAR review that goal in slow motion or frame by frame to be sure that it was a handball? Because I think many of us saw it differently. Bias aside, go look at that again, because I did, and it felt like it was not on his hand. But I don't know why we didn't even take much time to review that. And so that was it. We were left with a 2-2 draw and lost 2 points in what we continue to battle in front of us. I mean, talk about such a heartbreak, I mean, there's just so much from this that makes you wonder where you want to channel your anger, but enough of that. There's a lot for us to, appreciate from a positive angle. So with that, let me get to my top 3 standout performance in this game. And first player, Declan Rice. He was once again the heartbeat of our midfield. He managed to break Villa's attacks, while he also ensured we won every duel to attempt an early strike in the first half. I mean, the way he read the game, anticipating several moves, was just the top quality that he displays all the time. He was excellent in his distribution as well, always looking to play forward and progress the ball in and around areas where we could be really dangerous. He was good as well when he did those half turns to evade pressure and creating space for himself and others going forward. He gave the team the much more needed defensive cover in Saliba's absence, especially when Villa came swarming into our box. You could see him making sure that we could thwart their pace and, push to try to let off shots or, strike in several situations. That was a big game from Declan Rice. Second player, Big Gabby, stepped up in a big way. He enjoyed his battles with Watkins for most of the game, using his physicality and angles to dominate many attacking attempts. He really was excellent in his positioning and always seeming to be in the right spot from an angle with leverage to really slow them down. And his set piece presence alone, I mean, you can never forget that. He created that golden chance in the first half to score, which we didn't. That was enough to keep the momentum going that gave us that 1-0 lead. So as much as he missed his partner in the back, he really faced a huge deal in terms of the attacking threat from Villa, and he did not disappoint. That was another great game from the big Brazilian, and I'm very happy for him. Third and final player, Trossard. It's been a while I've called him, but this was a game that he showed up really well. He managed to inject the attacking life that we needed in front, and he did that throughout the match. His runs and crosses were too much for Villa to handle. He was excellent in his movements and dribbles, from picking the ball from deep middle and even from the byline. He did a lot of that, and it could be as a result of his consistent plays that is keeping this level like this. So I'm hoping for more of this from him. He was a constant menace, playing comfortably in the pocket of spaces, wriggling past challenges. He was that bright spark in terms of attack, and that made the team feed him the ball as much well enough to cause enough chaos in the box, because it was his crosses that gave us that lead anyway. So, enough of credit for him and his attacking presence. So hopefully we can, count on him as we go forward. It's true that we showed resilience with the lead, but our inability to hold and react as needed is the question as well, because I wonder, 2-0, yes, it felt like it was at the 60th minute. Why didn't we switch defensively to play out the rest of the match to preserve our lead? Maybe we did, but it didn't feel like we responded quite enough. Or could we not have done that after we conceded that first goal? I mean, these are now questions of game management, but it's hindsight, and yes, there's so many questions after the fact, but it's worth knowing that given the number of key players that were missing, we needed to rely on the defensive play and play in style just to snatch and run away with this win. But here we are talking about a draw, and that's quite disappointing. In the end, this 2 points dropped, it feels like, much more. But if we're honest with ourselves, there was a lot of challenges that we're facing, and, yet we're still an envy for many teams. But we are suffering from risks we took, not addressing key areas for this squad. And it is absolutely hurting us right now. Anyone still remember Neto that we picked up on loan? How much has it contributed now that we should have expected from him? I mean, some of it out of his control, but we should have been able to lean on him in certain situations. He has not given Raya the rest he needs. Maybe that's a decision by the coaching staff, but it also comes back to the reflection of the recruitment and how we're just really, really short and not leveraging what we try to do. We're in a situation that we're hyper reacting, and it's, in situations where what we have doesn't seem useful and we are in difficult situations to do more or find answers immediately. I mean, we don't have much leverage because we're desperate and we need something fast, sooner, and we need to get them in and get them into a system sooner than later. So there's a lot there. This is for the recruitment team to pull big ones if possible. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed, but time is running and there's a lot to point in that area. All right, that will do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, if you enjoy this, like, subscribe, and share with your fellow Gunners. Until then, take care.